Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. My name is Julian, and this is the Boston Bruins episode for my series of episodes where in the past I'd go through every single NHL team and talk about their potential lines and then talk about pretty much each and every one of the relevant players and tell you whether I would draft them or not based on their current projected ADP. Now, because I'm trying to give you more content, more valuable content, I'm not going to be doing this for every single team. However, I am still doing this for all the original 6 teams as well as the Vegas Golden Knights, which I've already released. So definitely check out that video right up there. Before we jump into the video content now, guys, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Trying to hit that big 6K mark, hopefully early this season. We'll see how that goes. It is my 4th season now giving fantasy advice, so definitely becoming a little bit more of a veteran, trying to get things a little bit more organized this year. I have a full schedule of content that I'm releasing, so definitely hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell if you want notifications for every time a new video drops. Trust me, guys, you're going to want to stay tuned for everything I have in store for you this preseason. Without further ado, let's jump into the Bruins lines that I see them having this year. And on the top line, I have Marchand, Charlie Coyle, and Jake DeBrusk. You can see that as a second line if you prefer. On the second line, I have JVR, Pavel Zacha, and David Pastrnak. On the third line, which I don't really see having any fantasy value this year, is Locko, Morgan Geekie, and Trent Frederic. On defense, Grzelcyk, McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, Forbor, and Shattenkirk, and Ullmark and Swayman should be splitting starts pretty evenly in nets. Now, obviously, guys, that rank you see there is NHL's rank on their top 250 players list. These are fantasy players, so they have David Pastrnak ranked at number 4. Last year, he scored 113 points, including 61 goals in 82 games. He had an otherworldly season last year, had the most shots on goal in the entire league, and was definitely an absolute stud. I've always loved this guy, but this year, with no Bergeron on the power play, that could affect him slightly. But this guy is going to score goals no matter what. If he wants to replicate his season last year, he'll have to keep that shot volume up. 407 shots, like I said, was the most in the league, is a lot. But I believe that he could do it again, and that rank 4 might be a tad high, but he's definitely an elite player and definitely merits being drafted in the top 10. Brad Marchand at number 33, though, I'd be a little worried of drafting him that early. Remember, that end of season last year that he had was really bad. You also have to remember that he had double hip surgery last year, which is a huge surgery and probably why he did slow down in the second half of the year. Maybe he just can't keep up anymore. And now he also loses Patrice Bergeron. Bergeron was a pretty big reason for why Marchand was doing so well. Obviously, Marchand's a great player in his own right. However, losing a great line mate like that definitely does hurt. And with all the factors going against him, I would not draft him this early in my draft. Unfortunately, as much as I actually love Marchand, he's one of my favorite players in the NHL, I'm not taking a chance on him, not this early, not this year, unfortunately. Next, I have Linus Ullmark ranked at number 39, and Ullmark was awesome last year. But Boston is a lot worse, guys, this year. With no Bergeron, no Krejci, they're missing a lot of depth at center, and I think they're going to do significantly worse. Boston had an otherworldly season last year. Ullmark won 40 of 48 games. It just doesn't seem like something that's repeatable, in my opinion. I'm not drafting him as a top 50 player this year, and he's still going to split the starts pretty evenly with Jeremy Swayman. All that factored together, guys, is just, I'm not drafting him in the top 50. It just doesn't make sense to me. Charlie McAvoy is a phenomenal hockey player. They've got him at number 47, but he's realistically only a top 100 player in fantasy, so to put him in the top 50 just doesn't make that much sense. Even if he does quarterback the top power play the entire season, he's not going to do enough to finish as a top 50 player. And plus, he may not even get the chance to do that since Lindholm did look pretty good on that top power play unit last year. I still think it's McAvoy's unit, but if he doesn't get that, his value is even lower, and just drafting him this high just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yes, he's a pretty safe player, to be drafting, but there's definitely some better guys to draft around the 50 mark than Charlie McAvoy. Jeremy Swayman around 82, and I do actually prefer Swayman's ranking to Ullmark since he's also a very good goalie and will get half the starts in Boston. But I still think there's going to be better goalie options in this range. So to draft him here, I don't think it's a terrible option. He's going to get half the starts, and Boston's still going to be a decent enough team next year that, it's not going to be a terrible draft pick here. But at the same time, there's probably going to be goalies in this range that are going to get a lot more starts and still for a pretty decent team. At number 89, Hampus Lindholm. He had an amazing season last year, and he managed to keep it up even after McAvoy came back and he lost his power play 1 duties. Even with that amazing season, he finished close to the 120th best player mark in terms of points per game. So to rank him as a top 90 player, it's pretty high in my opinion, especially since getting a plus-minus like that, which led the league by the way, is pretty unlikely since Boston will be worse this year and plus-minus is not something that's super easily replicable. So I would not draft him here. I don't think it's the worst draft pick in the world drafting him here, but really I think there are much better options here around the 90 mark. Next we got Jake DeBrusk, and he had an amazing fantasy year last year. He was a top 75 to 80 player in terms of fantasy points per game and a lot of formats. This year, I'm a lot more worried about Jake DeBrusk, though, because Patrice Bergeron is gone. Yes, I know I sound like a broken record, guys, but that does really affect things. He's a phenomenal hockey player. Yes, he's old, but he retired on a year where he won the Selke. Okay, he's a very important forward on his team, and losing him is going to take a toll on some of his line mates, like Marchand and DeBrusk, particularly because they were actually on his line. Now, DeBrusk had an awesome year with 50 points in just 64 games. I think that his stats are going to decline a little because Bergeron's not there. So this ranking to me is still a touch high, but it's not too bad because it is accounting for Bergeron leaving. So I don't absolutely hate drafting DeBrusk this year. Just keep in mind that he's not going to do as well as he did last year. Then they have Pavel Zacha ranked at 147. And last year he finished at around the 200th best player-ish in most formats. So why is he being ranked so high? Well, to reiterate once again, there's no Bergeron and no David Krejci. So that boosts him to either the first or second line center and possibly gives him top power play as well. So I think that he could potentially pay off this ranking, though I'm not insanely high on him because I do think that his ceiling is not that much higher than that. He's never really shown that he could really produce much above what he did last year. Then next on the list, I have Charlie Coyle, who NHL did not even rank on their list. Last year at 45 points in 82 games, and he has an amazing opportunity ahead of him. He potentially could be the top line center in Boston with either Marchand, Pastrnak, or maybe even both. This guy had been relegated to the third line center for the last few years, and he still managed to get 45 points last year, which honestly, for a third line center, is not bad at all. With a top line and maybe, if he's lucky, top power play role, if they don't put Zacha there instead, he'll be a lot more valuable. Either way, if this list is accurate and he's not even being drafted in the top 250 players, he's a pretty low risk and pretty high reward pick late in your draft. The next guy I want to go over is James Van Riemsdyk, and he could be a decent dart throw in my opinion to see if he maybe has any gas left in the tank. Obviously last year was not a good year for him with only 29 points in 61 games, but the Flyers suck and obviously he wasn't playing with very good players. Now this year he may get the chance to play with David Pastrnak, and that's an amazing place to be. If he's really lucky, maybe he'll get top power play. I don't think he will. Don't hold your breath for that. However, even just being on a line with David Pastrnak, that's a really, really good place for him to be. So if you're super late in your draft, in maybe a really, really deep league, like 20-man league or something like that, throwing a dart at James Van Riemsdyk is not the worst idea in the world. Then I have Kevin Shattenkirk, who pretty much at this point has no fantasy relevance at all, barring injuries to both McAvoy and Lindholm. That's the only way he would really have any kind of fantasy relevance. If both McAvoy and Lindholm get injured, suddenly he'd be the guy on the top power play. Then we might be able to talk about him. But for now, don't draft this guy. Don't bother in any type of league format right now. Doesn't really have any kind of fantasy relevance. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. I hope you really enjoyed the content today. If you did, please hit that like button if you haven't already, and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, guys, you're not going to want to miss all the content I have for you this off season. I'm going to be releasing a video literally every 2 days, if not more often than that. That's how often I'm putting out content, and that's how much I want to make sure you guys have the best possible drafts for your fantasy hockey season. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.